Hey there guys, my name's EarthToLydia and welcome back to another Dead by Daylight video. So, as we know, recently in the Resident Evil showcase, we had it confirmed that Resident Evil will be the next chapter in Dead by Daylight, and of course this has brought out a whole lot of theories and speculation. So today I'm going to be going over some of the theories that have been suggested to me and what I personally think about each of them and what we could be seeing in the game. Now before we go further into the video, if you want to catch out my other Dead by Daylight content that happens live, you can see it over on Twitch at twitch.tv/EarthToLydia, where I stream Dead by Daylight content full time. Anyway, let's first start with some background knowledge on Resident Evil. So 25 years ago, Capcom released the first entry in what we now know as the Resident Evil franchise, and in this game, and like many others afterwards, you'd be able to play as one of two playable characters, and if you play as both, that allows you to advance further and progress more with the story. And the more recent installments have been a bit more experimental. So one theory that I've already seen thrown about quite a bit is that we are going to be having more than one survivor in the Resident Evil DLC. And personally, I absolutely agree with this. I do have more reasoning to back this up, but I think this ties in really nicely with how the earlier games were formatted. And something we've got to keep in mind as well is that this is going to be celebrating the 25th anniversary of Resident Evil. So I think with this chapter, we're going to see some very easily identifiable characters, and including at least two survivors would really pay homage to those earlier entries. Another reason that I believe this is because I think in the Resident Evil teaser trailer that we saw, we already might have a hint as to which survivor is going to be included in the game. Now to me, the survivor that we can see struggling on the hook holds an uncanny resemblance to Suit Leon. However, there are quite a few others in the community that believe that this is Felix. Now, of course, there is always the slim chance that this is the case, however, I'm going to debunk this right now. First of all, yes, Felix holds a very strong resemblance to Leon anyway, and I think it would be quite easy to mistake one of them for the other. However, it makes no sense to include Felix in the Resident Evil showcase. I've heard people say that yes, the voice lines sound very similar to that of Felix. However, we know that Behavior has been known to reuse voice actors, so it isn't entirely out of the realm of possibility that Felix and whoever this new survivor is just have the same voice actor. Either that or maybe they just use some pre-existing voice lines as the voice actor assigned to this new survivor hasn't recorded yet. All of these things are entirely possible. And I know this is purely based on opinion, but I have to point out as well, why would you include Felix in the Resident Evil showcase? This part just doesn't make sense to me. If you wanted to use one of Dead by Daylight's original survivors as a stand-in, first of all, why would you try to shroud that identity? But secondly, why Felix? Surely it'd make more sense to put in Dwight or Jake or Meg or Claudette, somebody that's more identifiable to the series. But Felix just doesn't really make sense in this context. Again, I'll be the first one to hold my hands up and say this is just based off my opinion, and it is entirely possible that I'm wrong. But to me, I just don't understand why you would use Felix to advertise the Resident Evil chapter. Also, we know that Capcom have confirmed that there's going to be a Resident Evil 4 remake, which is coming up next. Now, this would tie in nicely with the Resident Evil 4 remaster. As we know, Leon is the main protagonist in the game. Now, this teaser does also give us a lot more information than what we're used to from Behavior, and this far away from the chapter's release as well, it does have me wondering, why would they make one of the survivors recognizable at this stage when they know that people get excited about mystery? And that's what has me thinking that this isn't the only survivor coming into the game. What I think they've done is they've given us a little bit of a taste by partially showing us some of Leon, not his full character model yet, and we will have a second survivor. Now, the second survivor I also think is most likely to be a female. Now, I have absolutely no evidence to back this up. My only thought process here is that the potential for legacy outfits is astronomical. If you release one male and one female survivor, say for example, if you brought in Leon Kennedy and Claire Redfield, then you have the potential to release legendary cosmetics also for Chris Redfield and Jill Valentine, and so on and so forth. Leaning further into this theory, if anybody stuck around to watch even more of the showcase, you'll have heard Matthew Cote quote, "kill or be killed," which is a quote that comes directly from the character Claire Redfield. Bringing in one male and one female survivor, just like we saw in the Stranger Things chapter, opens up a realm of possibilities. And as we know, we haven't had that many legendary outfits released since they got brought in with the Silent Hill chapter. So this might be about the time that we really see something popping off with those in the cosmetic store. So that is why I believe that we'll we'll be having at least 2 survivors brought in with this chapter. I've seen other people saying that they think 4 are going to be brought in. I honestly don't know. As we've heard Behavior say before, programming multiple characters in the same chapter is an awful lot of work, like we saw with the twins. But as far as survivors go, I don't think they'll be that difficult. I could be entirely wrong, of course, and it would still be an awful lot of work, but it's possibly doable. Also, I've heard some more speculation with regards to the end of the teaser. So as we see right at the end, we have Dead by Daylight X Resident Evil, and people are thinking that this X holds more meaning. Of course, at face value, this just means a collaboration, but others are taking this to mean that it's going to be a hint that Mr. X will be the killer in the game. And of course, Mr. X is an iconic character of the series. For anyone that didn't play Resident Evil Resistance, he was one of the launch characters in that game, and he was a fan favorite. So if they're taking the information and the data that they gathered from Resident Evil Resistance and applying it to the DBD chapter, I think they'd know that fans would love to see Mr. X in here. And I know there are going to be skeptics that say, why would you bring in characters from Resident Evil 4 and then combine them with earlier games? And my answer to that is the Silent Hill chapter. As we know, Cheryl Mason and Pyramid Head do not cross over in the Silent Hill games. They're just fan favorites and incredibly popular picks from the series. And I think the same will apply here. I don't think that they will limit themselves to bringing out only characters from the same video game entry. Now, in terms of a map, we have several entries that could really be a possibility here. Some people think that they won't be doing any more maps, as they have quite recently said that they won't be adding any more in, and instead focusing on the graphical updates to the older realms, which, though I do think that this is likely for even some more chapters to come, I think for the 5th year anniversary and for such a big license, they'd be missing out on a huge opportunity to not add a map in this. That is why personally I have absolutely no doubt that we'll be seeing a map with this chapter. For the 3rd year anniversary, we just got Ghostface. For the 4th year, we had Pyramid Head, Cheryl Mason, and Midwitch. And for the 5th year, they've got to outdo it again. So what map is the most plausible? If we're talking in terms of some of the most notable locations from the Resident Evil series, the mansion from the original game is an absolute no-brainer. Also, as we know, the devs like to hide a bunch of Easter eggs in the maps, and this map has the potential for hundreds. A lot of fans of the series also think that the Raccoon City Police Department could make an appearance, which is another really strong contender. But if we're talking about a smaller map, more condensed, maybe we could see the Baker House? Now, I do want to disclaimer this and say that I have strayed away from more recent Resident Evil installments. And as far as Resident Evil 8 goes, I know we're only around the corner from its release date, but I do not think that we will see Resident Evil 8 references in this chapter. And if you're wondering why, it's because the game hasn't even been released yet. For all we know, this could be an absolute flop. Yes, it's highly anticipated, but it would be an insurmountable risk to put a bunch of unrecognizable characters in the game where ultimately they want to try and sell this to more people. And there is a whole host of other games that are already cemented in horror history that they could take references from instead. In conclusion, my personal beliefs is that we will see Leon Kennedy with another survivor. If I have to speculate, I'll say another female survivor. I think it would be someone that could be easily identifiable to the series, whether that's Claire Redfield, Ada Wong, Jill Valentine, possibly Claire Redfield, and it is entirely possible that the killer is Mr. X, if we're reading more into the trailer. But of course, I wouldn't want to rule out Birkin or Nemesis or anybody else that is just as much a fan favorite and a face of the series. Anyway, I'm gonna leave it there for this video. I'd love to hear your feedback and speculation as well. If you've got anything to leave, then do so in the comment section. And if you do like these kinds of speculation videos, please be sure to let me know so I can make more content like this. As always, I'm going to leave the links to all of my social medias in the description, and I want to thank you all for making it this far into the video. Until next time, take care, guys.
Perfect, perfect.